Live from New Delhi, watching DD India News on India's Voice to the World. I'm Preeti Kaur. Coming up in the next 1 hour. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar meets his Russian counterpart Sergey Lavrov in Moscow, discusses bilateral ties, global and multilateral issues, reviews preparations for the 23rd Annual India-Russia Summit. At COP30, India calls for developed countries to reach net zero earlier and deliver climate finance in trillions, says summit should be a COP of implementation and of delivery on promises. UN Security Council adopts US resolution on Trump's Gaza plan, authorizes transitional authority and international stabilization force for the enclave. Trump hails UNSC vote. National Investigation Agency arrests another key associate of Red Fort car blast accused, Jasir Bilal Vani, arrested from Srinagar. Indian shooters continue their remarkable run at the Deaflympics in Japan, clinching 1 gold and 2 silver medals with record. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar met his Russian counterpart Sergey Lavrov in Moscow. The leaders discussed bilateral partnership covering trade and investment, energy, mobility, agriculture, technology, culture and people-to-people exchanges. They also exchanged perspectives on regional, global and multilateral issues. Dr. S. Jaishankar and Sergey Lavrov also reviewed preparations for the 23rd Annual India-Russia Summit, set to take place in just 3 weeks from now.
This particular occasion, for me, is all the more important as we prepare for President Putin's visit to India for the 23rd Annual Summit. A number of bilateral agreements, initiatives and projects are under discussion in various fields. We look forward to the finalization in the coming days. This will certainly add more substance and texture to our special and privileged strategic partnership. We will also be exchanging views on the complex global situation with the openness that has always characterized our ties. This includes the Ukraine conflict as also the Middle East and Afghanistan, amongst others. India supports recent efforts towards establishing peace. We hope that all parties approach that goal constructively. An early cessation of the conflict and ensuring of an enduring peace is in the interest of the entire international community. India-Russia ties have long been a factor of stability in international relations. Its growth and evolution is not only in our mutual interest, but also in that of the world. I look forward to our discussions this evening. Thank you.
While here in New Delhi, Minister of Ports, Shipping and Waterways Sarbanand Sonowal held a meeting with President Putin's aide Nikolai Patrushev. Both the sides had fruitful discussions on boosting maritime cooperation, enhancing connectivity and partnership in the Indo-Pacific and Arctic regions. The minister expressed confidence that the shared vision and long-standing friendship between the countries will further advance a strong, future-ready maritime collaboration between our nations. Under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, India-Russia relations continue to deepen, especially in the maritime domain. After Bangladesh's International Crimes Tribunal awarded the death sentence to the country's former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, New Delhi has said that India remains committed to the best interests of the people of Bangladesh. In a statement, India's Ministry of External Affairs said, and I quote, India has noted the verdict announced by the International Crimes Tribunal of Bangladesh concerning former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. As a close neighbor, India remains committed to the best interests of the people of Bangladesh, including in peace, democracy, inclusion and stability in that country. We will always engage constructively with all stakeholders to that end. And now we take a look at our next report on the entire judgment and Sheikh Hasina's stand on it.
Bangladesh's deposed Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina was on Monday sentenced to death in absentia by a special tribunal for crimes against humanity committed during the widespread protests against her government in July last year. The three-member bench, led by Justice Muhammad Ghulam Murtaza Mazumdar, read from a 453-page judgment that found Hasina guilty of ordering action against protesters.
In view of all the above facts and circumstances and findings, it is hereby ordered that accused Sheikh Hasina be found guilty on 3 counts under charge 1. Count number 1, incitement. Count number 2, order to kill. Count number 3, inaction to prevent the atrocities and failing to take punitive actions against the perpetrators, and thus she is punishable.
Reading out the judgment before a heavily guarded courtroom in Dhaka, the tribunal said the prosecution had proved beyond reasonable doubt that Hasina was responsible for the deadly crackdown during the July uprising.
On the second count, killing 6 persons at Sankarpur of Dhaka, which was committed in contemplation, in furtherance, by virtue of her order, as stated beforehand. And similarly, she committed the same crime, that is the crime against humanity, on another count for causing the killings at Ashulia of Sabar, killing of 6 persons. For all these 3 counts, we have decided to inflict her with only one sentence, that is sentence of death.
Hasina condemned the ruling as biased and politically motivated, saying the trial conducted without her presence and with a state-appointed lawyer was unfair. She maintains she is willing to face a new trial under an international tribunal. Rabindra Chauhan's report, DD India.
All right, Naval Sang Pramar joins us from Dhaka on the phone line. Naval Sang, good morning. We've told our viewers about the death sentence that has been awarded to Sheikh Hasina. Inform us about the further developments.
After the yesterday's judgment, there was a panic condition in Bangladesh. People were fearing of protest or violence, but the authority here in Bangladesh highly deployed the security force across the Dhaka as well as the neighboring districts of Dhaka and the home districts of Sheikh Hasina. So luckily, there were no major incidents of violence or protest in Dhaka. At the same time, there was a call from Awami League Party for the Band, lockdown in Dhaka and Bangladesh. So that also helped Awami Leaguers or Awami League supporters to stay inside their homes. And luckily, there was no major incidents of violence. But there are some reports of these stray incidents of arson and gunshots and crude bomb blasts. But more or less, the situation was calm. But now today and tomorrow or coming days, it has to be seen what will happen as the National Citizen Party, the Students Party, and the Jamaat-e-Islami, Bangladesh Jamaat-e-Islami, demanding quick extradition of Sheikh Hasina from India and the quick implementation of the sentence granted by the ICT. At the same time, Awami League supporters and their sympathizers are very much disturbed with the judgment. So situation is tense, and we have to see what will happen on ground in Dhaka and Bangladesh.
All right, the situation is tense there. You're talking about the law and order situation there, Naval Sang, but also when we talk of the options ahead for Sheikh Hasina, what more can you tell us about that?
It was a trial court judgment. ICT is a trial court, so she is having the option to appeal against the ICT judgment. And as in her statement, she already said that she is ready to face International Crime Tribunal in Hague internationally monitored and in true sense international crime tribunal. It is a localized crime tribunal, and she already accused that it is a bipartisan and it was there was no option for her to defend charges against her. So she already made her statement very loud and clear. So she is having this kind of option.
All right. Thank you so much, Naval Sangh, for joining in with those updates from Bangladesh. And India has issued an advisory on suspension of visa waiver facility extended to citizens travelling to Iran. The Ministry of External Affairs in a statement said that the attention of the government has been drawn to several incidents of Indian nationals being lured to Iran on false promises of employment or with assurances of onward transit to third countries. Now, these individuals were tricked into journeying to Iran by taking advantage of the visa waiver facility available for ordinary Indian passport holders. On arrival in Iran, many of them were kidnapped for ransom. The government of the Islamic Republic of Iran has accordingly suspended the visa waiver facility available to ordinary Indian passport holders visiting Iran with effect from 22nd of November this year. This measure is intended to prevent further misuse of the facility by criminal elements. From this date, Indian nationals with ordinary passports would be required to obtain a visa to enter or transit through Iran. All Indian nationals intending to visit Iran are strongly advised to remain vigilant and avoid agents offering visa-free travel or onward transit to third countries via Iran. Continuing with its probe in the Red Fort area car bomb blast case, India's National Investigation Agency has arrested another key associate of the terrorists involved in the blast. Jasir Bilal Wani, alias Danish, also a Kashmiri resident, was arrested from Srinagar in Jammu and Kashmir. NIA investigations have revealed that Jasir had allegedly provided technical support for carrying out terror attacks by modifying drones and attempting to make rockets ahead of the deadly car bomb blast, which killed 10 persons and left 32 persons injured. The accused, a resident of Kazigund in Anantnag district of Jammu and Kashmir, was an active co-conspirator behind the attack and had worked closely with the terrorist Umar Un-Nabi to plan the terror carnage. On Monday, the NIA granted a 10-day custody of Umar's co-conspirator Amir Rashid Ali by the Patiala House Court. Kashmir resident Ali was arrested on Sunday. He reportedly conspired with Umar to carry out the terror attack. NIA continues to explore various angles to unravel the conspiracy behind the bombing. You're watching DD India News Hour. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, aiming to curb drug trafficking, US acts tough against Mexico, threatening to launch strikes. Britain on way to make refugee status temporary to hasten the deportation of illegal migrants. France's Louvre Museum closes dilapidated rooms as precautionary measure after the month-ago heist.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you.
Exactly what save your.
You read between the lines, cut the clutter, and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times with me, only on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. The UN Security Council has adopted a US resolution detailing the mandate for the Gaza International Stabilization Force outlined in Trump's ceasefire. The resolution passed with 14 votes in favor, 0 votes against, paving the way for the crucial next steps for the fragile ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Russia and China abstained from the vote. The text of the resolution says member states can take part in the so-called Board of Peace, envisioned as a transitional authority that would oversee reconstruction and economic recovery of Gaza. It also authorizes the International Stabilization Force, which would allow and ensure a process of demilitarizing Gaza, including by decommissioning weapons and destroying military infrastructure. Trump's 20-point plan is included as an annex to the resolution. Israel and Hamas agreed last month to the first phase of Trump's Gaza plan. US President Donald Trump touts the UN Security Council's backing of his proposed Board of Peace, telling the audience during a speech in Washington that the body, which he says will include himself and leaders of very important and respected nations, marks one of the most important things the United States or the United Nations will ever do.
The Board of Peace, and it's going to be comprised of myself and leaders of other very important nations and very respected nations, and it's going to be something I think is going to be very important. It was just approved. It was just endorsed by the United Nations. It was pretty great. It's a big thing. I think it's one of the most important things the United Nations will ever do, actually.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will urgently convene cabinet ministers to ensure Israelis behind the latest attacks against Palestinians in the West Bank are brought to justice. Israel has been under mounting international pressure to curb the attacks on the Palestinians in the West Bank. Convening ministers, a potential sign of greater government attention, was Netanyahu's most significant recent step to address the violence. Defense Minister Israel Katz, in a separate statement, said the government in coming weeks would approve a landmark decision to allocate resources and funding that he expected would have a significant impact addressing the violence. The Israeli military said security forces were deployed to Jabba and searches were underway for those responsible. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister has made it clear that Gazans should be allowed to leave the territory and return to it at will.
South Africa's government has raised concerns about the arrival of a plane load of Palestinians from Gaza, with officials there saying the matter was under investigation. The Prime Minister has made it clear that if Palestinians want to leave, they should be allowed to leave the Gaza Strip. And if they want to come back to the Gaza Strip, they should also be allowed to come back.
While South Africa's government is investigating the unexpected arrival of over 100 Palestinians in the country, in an interview, international relations strategist Zeenat Adams said that South Africa's immigration rules were critical to understanding the situation.
South Africa, under international law, would be obligated to allow them in, documented or undocumented. And this would mean that they would be issued with a Section 22 form, which would allow for them to then apply for asylum in South Africa and legally be allowed to stay in South Africa. Without that, if they had asked for visitation, this is where the question arises as to whether their documentation was adequate enough.
Our correspondent Akshay Dongre is joining us from New Delhi to spell out more. Akshay, talking of the crisis in West Asia, the latest development we've told our viewers about is the UNSC adopting US resolution on Trump's Gaza plan. How will that further pan out, and to what extent will that help in bringing normalcy in the region, given the way that ceasefire is currently in place?
Well, that is going to be quite a speculation here as far as how it is going to pan out, because it's one thing we have learned from the region is that, all the speculations have fallen flat as far as the, factors are concerned that have been involved in the violence. But, we can talk about the situation right now. that is about the tension that still remains in the region. Now, as far as the major movement is concerned, that is going to happen for sure is going to be the International Stabilization Force that is going to be that is going to have forces from different countries. Now, they will be working under the supervision of Israel and Egypt. And will be training, Palestinian police officers, policemen, who will be, taking over the peace and security operations in the region. Now, that is point one. Now, earlier, the Palestinian police was working under the authority of Hamas, which is going to change. The International Stabilization Force is going to function under supervision of the entire world in a manner, because different world leaders who are going to be supervising this International Stabilization Force are going to monitor how the lives of Palestinians are more secured in this manner as far as a neutral police force is concerned. The second is going to be Board of Peace. Now, that's going to be quite important because Donald Trump, along with several other country leaders, are going to be part of this board that is going to be there in the governance, as well as matters of the governance for the time being of the region, especially when we are talking about the Palestinians and how they have been living under the authority of Hamas earlier. Now, it is going to change, and it is going to be Board of Peace that is going to govern Gaza. Especially for this transition that is going to take several years, including reconstruction of Gaza, including establishment of the International Stabilization Force, and sort of maintaining relation with the neighboring countries as well. That is the second point. And the third, that is also quite essential, is also to point out that the reconstruction of Gaza is going to be done by the funds that will be provided by World Bank. So these are three major things that have gotten approval of the United Nations Security Council. But there are still certain issues they still remain. That includes the complete disarmament of Hamas. That is one sticking point that we are witnessing right now. But as far as the voting pattern is also concerned, it's quite important to see that China and Russia did not vote against the International Stabilization Force and the 20-point plan that was pushed by Donald Trump and the U.S. administration. So that is quite important to see, because irrespective of the kind of criticism that China and Russia had of the plan, they have decided to abstain from the voting that helped the UN resolution to pass without any kind of veto coming in from the two countries. So it seems that the world remains optimistic about the plan, but now the implementation will decide, in a manner how this is going to pan out. So that is why, speculation at this point in time is going to be premature, but the steps are looking positive as far as establishing peace in the region are concerned.
All right, Akshay, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for joining in with those details. And moving on to the Russia-Ukraine conflict now, where Moscow continues to strike various cities of Kyiv. This time, Russian strikes hit eastern Ukrainian city of Balaklia that killed 3 people. Now, the overnight attack damaged multi-storied residence blocks and destroyed scores of cars in the city center. In search of more aid and ammunition, just after securing 100 Rafales deal with France, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky is now visiting Spain. In Spanish Parliament, Zelensky will meet with President of the Congress of Deputies of Spain, Francina Armengol, and President of the Senate of Spain, Pedro Rollin, in Madrid. US President Donald Trump says he will greenlight the sale of advanced F-35 fighter jets to Saudi Arabia, signaling a departure in how Washington handles sophisticated weapons transfers to the Arab countries. Saudi Arabia has requested to buy as many as 48 F-35 fighter jets. Now, the F-35 is widely regarded as the world's most advanced fighter jet, featuring technology that makes it difficult for enemy defenses to detect. Trump made the announcement on Monday at the White House, just one day before Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is due to visit.
No, I am planning on doing that. Yeah. They want to buy. They've been a great ally. They've got to like us very much. Look at the Iran situation, what we did in terms of obliterating, we obliterated their nuclear capability. Yeah, I will say that we will be doing that. We'll be selling F-35s here.
Attorney Gloria Allred and alleged Jeffrey Epstein victim Alicia Arden held a press conference on Monday, urging Congress to release the investigative files on Epstein.
I suffered so much pain.
So much pain.
So much pain.
I suffered so much pain. I was 14 years old.
I was 16 years old.
I was 16.
17.
14 years old.
This is me.
This was me.
This is me. When I met Jeffrey Epstein.
This is me when I met Jeffrey Epstein.
There are about 1,000 of us.
It's time to bring the secrets out of the shadows. It's time to shine a light into the darkness.
U.S. President Donald Trump on Monday again backed efforts by House Republicans to release files related to Epstein, calling it a Democrat problem and accusing prominent Democrats, including former President Bill Clinton, of ties to the late financier. Trump dropped his long-standing opposition to the bill late on Sunday, days after a House petition gathered enough support to force a vote, a rare instance of House Republicans defying the president's wishes. Britain announced plans to make refugee status temporary and accelerate the deportation of people who enter the country illegally on Monday. Britain's Labour government has introduced sweeping asylum changes designed to reduce abuse of the system and curb the growing influence of Reform UK, including extending the wait for permanent settlement from 5 to 20 years. The government warned it may impose visa bans on Angola, Namibia and the Democratic Republic of Congo if they refuse to take back illegal migrants and criminals. In Istanbul, 11 people were detained in connection with the deaths of 4 members of the same family from suspected poisoning, appeared before a judge on Monday. A Turkish-German woman, her husband and their 2 children who were on holiday from Germany in Turkey's largest city fell ill on Wednesday after eating several popular street food dishes in the waterside neighborhood of Ortaköy. They were taken to hospital, but the 2 children died on Thursday and the mother a day later, while the father died on Monday after several days in ICU. Istanbul prosecutors opened an investigation, initially focusing on suspected food poisoning. However, evidence has emerged that the family may have been exposed to pesticides in the hotel where they were staying. Just a month after a daring daylight heist exposed its security vulnerabilities, France's Louvre Museum has shut certain rooms exhibiting Greek vases as well as some offices in a 1930s designed wing that is now in poor structural condition. The Louvre's recent closures highlight its urgent need for renovation. A technical inspection of the Louvre's Sully wing found weakened beams following a state audit that criticized the museum for neglecting security and infrastructure. As a result, the Campana Gallery has been closed along with the relocation of 65 staff members. Further inspections are underway to assess the full extent of the structural issues. On October 19th, $102 million in jewels were stolen from the Louvre in a daylight heist, and the Campana Gallery near the Apollo Gallery has been closed since then. You're watching DD India News Hour. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, India calls for renewed global cooperation to protect big cat species and their habitats as part of integrated climate and biodiversity action at the COP30. Australia and Turkey vie to host next year's UN Climate Summit COP31. And ex-Maoists and violence survivors serve hope at a cafe in India's Odisha.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the economic brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. India has urged developed countries to demonstrate greater climate ambition and honor their commitments while delivering national statement at COP30 in Belém, Brazil. Union Minister for Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Bhupendra Yadav, called for COP30 to be remembered as a COP of implementation and a COP of delivery on promises. The minister conveyed India's appreciation to the government and people of Brazil for hosting COP30 in the heart of the Amazon. He further stressed the need for affordable, accessible climate technology and stated that climate technology must be free from restrictive intellectual property barriers.
Under the visionary leadership of Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, India has demonstrated successfully that development and environmental stewardship can advance in tandem. India's emission intensity has declined by over 36% since 2005. India's non-fossil fuel-based energy capacity, currently around 256 gigawatt, accounts for more than half of its total electric installed capacity. An NDC target achieved 5 years ahead of this schedule. Initiatives such as the International Solar Alliance and Global Biofuel Alliance have become global platform for performing affordable and clean energy.
Bhupendra Yadav also addressed the high-level ministerial segment on the International Big Cat Alliance COP30. He called for renewed global cooperation to protect big cat species and their habitats as part of integrated climate and biodiversity action. The event was also attended by the Minister of Agriculture and Livestock, Government of Nepal, Dr. Madan Prasad Pariyar. The minister emphasized that ecological challenges today are deeply interconnected and require linked solutions. He also informed the gathering about India's role as a home to 5 of the world's 7 big cat species and outlined the country's major conservation successes. The minister also met UK Secretary of State for Energy, Security and Net Zero, Edward Miliband, on the sidelines of the COP30 summit and discussed various issues related to climate. The minister presented India's views on multilateralism, ecological protection and dealing with the vagaries of climate change at the session on Pioneer Progress, how India is powering the rapid rollout of renewable energy. India has been successfully decoupling economic growth from emissions, working with a clear understanding that economic activity and green growth policy work together. He highlighted the need for collaboration on climate resilience, particularly in the vulnerable regions. Addressing the lead IT industry leaders roundtable during COP30, Bhupendra Yadav underscored India's commitment to collaborative, technology-driven and sustainable industrial transitions under the Paris Agreement. He said that India continues to take forward ambitious domestic, regional and global initiatives spanning renewable energy, disaster resilience, biodiversity conservation and interventions in the industrial sector led by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. As many as 18 industries and research institutions from India and Sweden will soon initiate projects involving value creation from industrial byproducts and gases, carbon capture and utilization, artificial intelligence for process optimization, electrification and hydrogen-based industrial heating. Meanwhile, COP30 host Brazil on Monday extended negotiations into the night at the UN climate talks as they push for a rapid compromise among countries very much at deep odds. Brazil's top goal to deliver for COP30 is to deliver an agreement that reaffirms the 2015 Paris Agreement while acknowledging its shortcomings by laying out clearer plans for future climate action. Following a difficult first week, Brazil set a deadline for nations to finalize a significant part of the negotiations by Tuesday evening for approval the following day. UN Climate Chief Simon Stale urged negotiators to tackle the hardest issues fast to avoid going into overtime at the summit's close on Friday. Brazil's indigenous people took to the streets of Belém with global march "The Answer Is Us" on Monday. Demonstrators carried signs and chanted indigenous demands, which include the demarcation and protection of their ancestral lands. More than 3,000 indigenous people from various regions of Brazil are expected to attend COP30. This will run until November 21st. The protest underscores the stake for indigenous communities as delegates gather to negotiate climate policies aimed at mitigating global environmental challenges. Meanwhile, Australia launched a last-ditch effort on Monday to host next year's UN Climate Summit. Australia's Climate Minister Chris Bowen said that his country was fighting hard to beat the rival bid from Turkey. The hosting feud between the two nations has loomed over the COP30 conference in Brazil, where Bowen tries and breaks the deadlock in the final days of the gathering. Turkey and Australia both want to host the 31st conference of the parties, but under United Nations rules, a winner can only be chosen by consensus, meaning unless one withdraws or both could miss out. Both the countries insist that they have the support needed and they are refusing to back down. Pope Leo on Monday appealed for concrete action on climate change and suggested that some leaders lacked the political will to act as he addressed religious leaders on the sidelines of the COP30 summit. In a video message, Pope Leo said that Paris Agreement has driven legal progress and remains our strongest tool for protecting people and the planet. The Pope's message reflected mounting concern about flagging international ambition and rising greenhouse gas emissions a full decade after the 2015 Paris Agreement.
Agreement has driven real progress and remains our strongest tool for protecting people and the planet. But we must be honest. It is not the agreement that is failing. We are failing in our response. What is failing is the political will of some. True leadership means service and support at a scale that will truly make a difference. Stronger climate actions will create stronger and fairer economic systems. Strong climate actions and policies, both are an investment in a more just and stable world.
And back home, days after the election results, the process of forming the new NDA government in the eastern Indian state of Bihar began on Monday after Nitish Kumar met Governor Arif Mohammad Khan and recommended the dissolution of the outgoing assembly with effect from November 19th. Meanwhile, newly elected Bharatiya Janata Party MLAs will hold a meeting on Tuesday to choose their legislature party leader in Patna. The newly elected MLAs of the NDA will meet in Patna on Wednesday to elect their leader. The meetings of the BJP and JDU legislature parties will also be held on Wednesday in Bihar's capital. Now, as per the sources, the swearing-in ceremony of the next government in Bihar will take place in Patna on November 20th. The NDA secured a strong mandate in the Bihar elections, with both the JDU and BJP significantly improving on their 2020 performances. The BJP became the single largest party with 89 seats, followed by the JDU with 85. Air India has announced the resumption of its non-stop flights between Delhi and Shanghai from February 2026, marking Air India's return to mainland China after nearly 6 years. Subject to the requisite regulatory approvals, Air India also intends to introduce non-stop flights between Mumbai and Shanghai in 2026. Air India will operate 4 times a week between Delhi and Shanghai using its twin-aisle Boeing 787-8 aircraft. The reinstatement of Air India's services to Shanghai follows recent India-China diplomatic agreements that restored the air links paused in early 2020. Air India first launched non-stop services to mainland China in October 2000. The 44th India International Trade Fair is underway at Bharat Mandapam in New Delhi. The theme for this year's fair is Ek Bharat, Shresth Bharat. During the event, Union Minister for Civil Aviation Ram Mohan Naidu Kinjarapu inaugurated the Airports Authority of India Pavilion in the gracious presence of Vipin Kumar, Chairman, AAI and board members of the Ministry of Civil Aviation, Government of India and Airport Authorities of India, showcasing India's aviation excellence and airport infrastructure. Union Minister for Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Jitan Ram Manjhi inaugurated the MSME, KVIC and COI pavilions at the 44th India International Trade Fair. They also visited various stalls in the pavilions, interacted with the exhibitors, witnessed live demonstration of various traditional manufacturing processes and encouraged the participants. Bihar Pavilion also stands out with its extensive display of Madhubani paintings which adorn the entire space. Spread across two sections, the pavilion features bangles, fabrics, wall hangings, decorative items and more. At the IITF, artisans like Sharif Khan from Indore are showcasing innovative crafts, turning waste materials like discarded leather and paper into attractive toys. So that was about the India International Trade Fair that is currently on in the national capital. Let's take a look at other stories making it to the headlines from across India. In Chhattisgarh, Chief Minister Vishnu Deosai inaugurated a coffee shop named Cafe Pandum in Bastar to provide employment opportunities to the Maoists who have surrendered. It offers training in hospitality and entrepreneurship, empowering individuals who previously lived through conflict to earn a dignified livelihood. The cafe stands as a symbol of social and economic transformation. In Jammu and Kashmir, various central and union territory government schemes are empowering youths to become job creators. Altaf Hussain from Udhampur has established a successful dairy unit under Rural Employment Generation Program and is now providing jobs to local youth. His story reflects the impact of government support in driving entrepreneurship. In Odisha's Mayurbhanj, over 100 families in Badar Kali village are engaged in making and selling various bamboo products. For generations, the people here have been making bamboo products as a traditional occupation. Over the time, this weaving craft has evolved into a sustainable livelihood. In Punjab, 350 Salah Lights and Sound Show was held at Batinda as part of the 350th year of commemoration of Shri Guru Tegh Bahadur Ji. These spectacular shows brought to life the inspiring journey, supreme sacrifice and eternal legacy of Hind Di Chadar through mesmerizing lights, soulful music and powerful storytelling. You're watching DD India News. We're heading for a short break, but after the break, US stocks fall as investors await economic data. Shooting World Championship in Egypt comes to a close with Indian shooters claiming 13 medals. The 4-day cultural extravaganza, Chilika's Sheldak International Folk Carnival, to conclude in Odisha. Stay with us for a sneak peek. after the break. You're watching DD India News Hour. Let's take a look at updates from the world of business now. US stocks continued their recent sell-off with all the three major indices ending lower as investors braced for a week of accelerated economic data releases following the longest government shutdown in the US history. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 1.18%. The S&P 500 dropped 0.92%, while the Nasdaq Composite slid 0.84%. Investors are closely watching Nvidia, which is set to report quarterly earnings on Wednesday. The company's performance will be seen as a barometer for demand in the artificial intelligence sector, which has driven much of the recent market tally. European stocks also declined as traders stayed cautious ahead of the upcoming US jobs data. The Pan-European Stock 600 index lost 0.54%, while the FTSE Eurofirst 30 index fell 0.55%. Markets in Asia showed mixed performance. Japan's Nikkei dropped 2%. Meanwhile, broader Asia-Pacific shares outside Japan edged up slightly. Under mounting pressure from Americans worried about inflation, US President Donald Trump addressed franchise owners, suppliers and operators, touting how his administration is working to lower costs for everyday Americans. At the McDonald's summit, Trump highlighted the importance of the chain's historically cheap meals and how American consumers are counting on the fast food company to provide deals amid rising food prices. Trump appealed directly to the nation's largest fast food chain in a speech that offered no new initiatives but touched on military attacks on Iranian nuclear facilities, to his personal devotion to McDonald's products and his renaming of the Gulf of Mexico.
You know that I'm fighting every day to support small businesses like yours and the citizens that we all serve. And together we're fighting for an economy where everyone can win, from the cashier starting her first job to a franchisee opening his first location to the young family in a drive-through line. I've been on that line many times. My pledge to every family and every small business is that I will not rest until you are richer, stronger, more successful, happier, till you've gotten a piece of the American dream.
And from business, we now turn focus to sports. Indian shooters Anuya Prasad and Pranjali Prashant Dhumal claimed gold and silver medals in the 10 meters air pistol event at the 25th Summer Deaflympics in Tokyo. Anuya Prasad also broke the deaf final world record en route to winning the gold, and Pranjali broke the qualification world record to book her place in the finals. Mahila Sami of Iran won the bronze. In the men's event, Abhinav Deshwal shot 235.2 points to win the silver medal. Deshwal, who equalized the qualification world record, took India's shooting medals tally to 7 after 2 days of competition. Olympian Gurpreet Singh bagged a silver medal on the final day of the Shooting World Championship in Egypt. Gurpreet came agonizingly close to becoming the world champion in the 25-meter center fire pistol event, losing out on the gold medal by a whisker in Cairo. This was Gurpreet's second individual medal at the championships, following the silver in the 25-meter standard pistol event at the 2018 edition. Indian shooters ended their campaign with a rich haul of 13 medals, including 3 golds, 6 silvers and 4 bronze medals. They finished at the 3rd position behind China and South Korea. Grandmaster Arjun Ergaizi kept India's challenge alive at the FIDE World Cup 2025 in Goa, holding Chinese star Wei Yi to a confident 31-move draw in their quarter-final opener. The Indian prodigy showed superb preparation in the Rai Lopez closed system, maintaining a time edge throughout and simplifying into a drawn rook and pawn ending. With the white pieces in Game 2, he now has a golden chance to press for victory and move closer to the Vishwanathan Anand Cup final and a candidate's 2026 berth. Four-time World Cup champions Germany finally secured their place in the 2026 edition with a 6-0 rout over Slovakia. It will be Germany's 21st appearance at the tournament, with the only 2 editions the country has missed. In the inaugural 1930 World Cup, it did not enter, and in 1950, it was not allowed to participate. The road was dramatic for Germany, which opened their Group A play with a loss to Slovakia. They recovered from only their third loss ever in World Cup qualifying to reel off 5 consecutive victories. Germany only needed a draw to secure a spot in the 2026 World Cup, but they put the game out of Slovakia's reach with 4 goals in the first half. Also 3 times World Cup runners-up, the Netherlands secured their berth at the 2026 finals with an easy 4-0 victory over Lithuania, finishing on top of Group G. The victory margin could have been even better and bigger. Such was the Dutch dominance, but the result ensured that they completed the campaign 3 points clear of second-placed Poland. The unbeaten Netherlands finished on 20 points. The Olympic torch will go on a 12,000 kilometers journey across Italy in 2 months leading up to the Winter Olympics in February next year. The torch relay will begin on 26th of November when the flame is lit in Olympia, the Greek home of the ancient games. The flame will be handed over to the Italian officials in Athens on 4th of December and begin its Italian trip from Rome 2 days later. The relay will start each day at 7:30 a.m. local time and conclude around 12 hours later with the lighting of the cauldron in the final city of the day. It will conclude in Milan, entering the San Siro Stadium on the evening of February 6th. The games will be co-hosted by Milan and Dolomite Resort of Cortina d'Ampezzo and run from 6th to 22nd of February. Some of the world's best tennis players will be in action at the quarterfinals of the Davis Cup beginning in Italy today. The tournament kicks off with France taking on Belgium in Bologna City. Defending champs Italy will be in action on Wednesday when they face Austria. The host nation will look to defend their title without world number 2 Yannick Sinner or world number 8 Lorenzo Musetti, as both pulled out of the competition. World number 1 Carlos Alcaraz is expected to feature for Spain when they face the Czech Republic on Thursday. The final quarter pits Argentina against world number 3 Alexander Zverev and Germany also on Thursday. The Davis Cup final is slated for Sunday. The 11th Chilika Shelduck International Folk Carnival will conclude in Odisha's Khordha city on Tuesday. Now, the 4-day carnival, being organized on the theme Martial Dance of Asia and Oceania, is a cultural extravaganza that celebrates the rich heritage of India and South Korea. All right, that's it in this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those of you on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms, and you can download the respective QR codes. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Preeti Kaur signing off, and from all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India News Hour.